Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hanhart Pioneer Preventor HD12. This watch is available in two versions, black and blue, from Hanhart.com for €1,295. Both versions feature a new updated micro adjustment clasp. So firstly, let's look at the watch roll that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a genuine leather watch roll, which is housed inside an outer cardboard box, and the cardboard box is protected in shipping by a black cardboard sleeve. So one removes the sleeve. As you can see, good attention to detail, because on the lid of the outer cardboard box we have Hanhart 1882. The brand has a rich brand heritage. Hanhart have been making watches in Germany since 1882, and they currently make their watches in the Black Forest in Germany. So inside, one pulls down the flap, and I'll take out the watch roll and show it to you. So genuine leather. This has a gorgeous scent to it, and I'm pleased to see Hanhart use genuine leather, not vinyl or PU leather, which looks like genuine leather. Contrasting white stitching around the perimeter is done to perfection, no loose stitches, two leather straps securing the flap, and we have two stainless steel rivets which secure the straps, and again good attention to detail because it's embossed with the Hanhart text logo and 1882. So one undoes the two straps from the stainless steel rivets and unfolds it. The interior has a suede effect to the grained leather, and one opens the two flaps, and as you can see, inside we have two straps, and they have stainless steel poppers which do an excellent job of securing the watch in shipping from moving around. And again, fantastic attention to detail, because if you look at the interior, it's also signed with the Hanhart logo and also 1882. This is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get presentation correct. Often mid-tier brands, and to clarify, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point, they will use the less expensive default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box. Alternatively, they will use a watch roll, but the watch roll will be made from vinyl or PU leather as a production cost cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece. What I like about Hanhart is they use genuine leather watch rolls which are high quality, and this piece is €1,295. This is some of the best presentation I have seen in the mid-tier, regardless of the price point between €500 and €5,000. Excellent. With regards to the items that come with the piece, this is the warranty card. On the reverse it has the reference number for the piece, the serial number and the model, Pioneer Preventor 39mm, and there's space for the authorised dealer to stamp it and fill in the date of purchase. Also has the website hanhart.com. One also gets this owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Sellita Caliber SW200-1 automatic. And lastly, one also gets this Hanhart branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of the piece. So, the Pioneer Preventor HD12 is covered by a 2-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Hanhart here, because often mid-tier brands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is excellent, and they deserve full credit for that. So as I've detailed, both versions, the black and the blue version we're going to be looking at, now have an updated micro adjustment clasp. With regards to specifications, we have a 39mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46mm, a thickness of 10.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push micro-adjustment clasp. I'm pleased to see the perfection personified 20 to 16 taper that I often refer to in my previous reviews. This is the industry standard for good reason. On a 39mm head of the piece, 20 to 16 is the perfect taper. Very aesthetically pleasing, it balances the head of the piece very well. So as I've detailed, both the black and blue versions of the Pioneer Preventor HD12 feature a new updated micro adjustment clasp. So to clarify, the original version of the HD12 had a pressed stainless steel clasp which was a lighter gauge, and it only had the minimum 3 micro adjustment holes drilled in the flanks, and this was the one negative of the original HD12. And I'm really pleased to see Hanhart have addressed this, and they've updated it by refining it with an updated micro adjustment clasp which has a ratcheting mechanism providing 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment. The original just had 3 micro adjustments in the flanks, holes drilled, and it also had a Rolex EasyLink style extension which provided 10mm of extension, rather like a diver's extension link. And that did work to a satisfactory standard for on-the-fly adjustment. You could deploy the diver's extension link, which was solid mill 316L grade stainless steel, or alternatively use the 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks. But it really needed to be updated because this is €1,295. It's a mid-tier piece, and pressed body clasps are not acceptable with 3 micro adjustment holes, which is the minimum. This really does address the only shortcoming of the original version, and I'm very pleased to see it, so we'll test that. We have a double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the satin finished cathedral handset. So we have a cathedral hour hand and we have a syringe minute hand, which are correctly proportioned, and also contrasting red tip to the sweeping second hand. So dial execution is excellent. Now, what I like about this piece is the continuity of design. And again, this does have the vintage aesthetic of vintage Hanhart pieces because they have reverted to using the original cursive fonts logo for the Hanhart logo rather than the contemporary logo. And they've used the original Hanhart logo on the dial, also on the clasp, as you can see, and also on the caseback. So all 3 places, dial, clasp, caseback, have the original Hanhart logo. This enhances the piece. I prefer the original Hanhart logo, and of course purist Hanhart collectors will particularly appreciate this, as well as on the crown it's signed with the H in the original font of the original Hanhart logo. Dial execution is excellent. High definition crisp printing. The Arabic numerals are the classic iconic Hanhart font. It gives the piece a vintage aesthetic because it's the original font used. And the quality of the printing to the minute ticks on the chaptering is high definition and crisp. The Arabic numerals are very sharp. The font isn't too thick and blurry. The legibility is excellent. Perfect colour tone match between the C1 Superlume Nova used on the dial and also on the cathedral handset. It looks white on the dial, also looks white on the hands, doesn't look more cream on the dial or hands, so the colour tone match in daylight is perfect. I like the matte black dial. They've made the correct decision by not using a shiny sunburst dial or alternatively glossy enamel black dial. The matte finish to the dial, which is smooth rather than textured, improves the legibility. Had they used a glossy enamel black dial, it would have made it more reflective, and of course that would have reduced the legibility and the clarity. The AR coating has excellent clarity to it, and one detail I really like about this piece is it's got a very low dome to the double dome sapphire crystal. What we're looking at with this piece is correct decision after correct decision. For example, often mid-tier brands make the mistake of using a box top pack crystal in order to give the piece a vintage aesthetic, rather like an acrylic, plexiglass or Hesselite crystal used in the 1960s and 1970s. The problem with box top pack crystals is they often add 2mm of thickness to the head of the piece. What I like about this piece above all else is how low profile it is, how thin it is. This is only 10.6mm, and that's largely due to the very low dome of the double dome sapphire crystal. It's nearly flat. So aesthetically it's very pleasing because it's got a very slight dome to it, and of course it's double domed, which improves the legibility because rather than being single domed, one doesn't get the magnification and distortion effect when you tilt it at an oblique angle. It's curved on the underside, curved on the top side. Doesn't add significant thickness to the piece as a result because of its low dome. It's only 10.6mm thick, which is excellent for an automatic. Now, the thing to note is the HD12 is made from hardened stainless steel. HD12 denotes that the steel has a hardness rating of 1200 HV. HV stands for hardness Vickers. So to put that into perspective, standard 316L grade stainless steel typically has a hardness rating of 200 HV, 200 hardness Vickers. So 1200 HV versus 200 HV. The benefit of hardened stainless steel at 1200 HV is it is harder and more scratch resistant to scuffs and scratches. So for example, with daily wear and tear, the clasp, which is also made from HD12 steel, is not going to be prone to being scuffed and scratched as per standard 316L grade stainless steel with a hardness rating of 200 HV. 1200 HV is much harder, much more scratch resistant to scuffs and scratches, and this is particularly beneficial on the areas of a piece that are prone to being scuffed and scratched with wear and tear, such as the clasp and the bracelet and also the head of the piece. So to clarify, every part of this watch is made from HD12. The bezel, the crown, the head of the piece, the case back, the bracelet and the micro adjustment clasp are fully HD12. They all are 1200 HV. Right, so I'll switch over to the blue version. Of the two versions, now this is subjective, I prefer the blue version. The matte blue dial on this HD12 is absolutely gorgeous, and I love the matte finish. Again, they made the correct decision by making it matte blue versus glossy enamel glossy enamel blue, alternatively sunburst blue, which would have been more shiny and reflective. The benefit of this being matte blue, which is a dark navy blue, is that it doesn't reflect the light like a mirror, and of course this is enhanced by the clear AR coating. You can see the benefit, the clarity is superb. Contrast of the white Arabic numerals for the 12 hours and also the 60-minute ticks on the chapter ring contrasts very well with a matte blue dial, as does the Cathedral handset. The syringe minute hand is correctly proportioned. The tip of it extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring. The contrasting red tip of the second hand contrasts very well, improves legibility, but also it's long enough to extend to the minute ticks. And the Cathedral hour hand extends all the way to the printed Arabic numerals for the 12 hours. Proportions of the handset are good, but also it makes a refreshing change from the default option of baton hands or alternatively Mercedes handset. The Cathedral hands give it a vintage aesthetic, as does the syringe minute hand, and Hanhart deserve credit because they've got the balance correct between vintage aesthetic of a piece looking like a 1960s or 1970s piece, but modern day specification. Cathedral hand and syringe hand give it a vintage look, but of course we have the enhancement of C1 Superlume Nova, and we have a double dome sapphire crystal with AR coating, which are modern day contemporary enhancements. So the blue and the black versions are both made from HD12. Let's look at the crown in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished cap to it, and you can see it's embossed with the Hanhart H, and you can see the H has the same font as the original Hanhart logo, and this gives the piece a vintage aesthetic rather than the modern contemporary H logo. So let's test the execution. 100 metres of hermetic seal is strong specification. I want to give due credit to Hanhart here because this is a daily wear piece, and strictly speaking it does not need 100 metres and a screw down crown. We're not looking at a dive piece. They could have used the production cost cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece of just using a push pull crown with 50 metres or a push pull crown with 100. 100 metres of hermetic seal with a screw down crown is strong specification for a daily wear piece. Silky smooth, perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. There are two rubber O-ring gaskets, one inside the crown, a second one inside the stainless steel crown tube. The two rubber O-ring gaskets provide two hermetic seals to 100 metres. So silky smooth. When it's fully unscrewed, one can manually wind the Solita caliber SW200-1 automatic to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. Feels smooth to manually wind. There's no discernible difference between manually winding an ETA 2824-2 or the SW200-1 because the latter is a clone of the former. Feels nice and smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty to manually wind. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Pulling it out to the first click is the final click position. Now, this may come as a surprise to you because usually the SW200-1 is a date complication caliber, which you'll all be familiar with. So to clarify, the SW200-1 is produced in two versions, 1A and 1B. This piece uses the 1B, and the SW200-1B does not have a date complication. So to clarify, SW200-1A is the date version, SW200-1B is the no date version. Hanhart have made the correct decision because this is the 1B, that deletes the date complication, therefore we do not have a phantom date setting position on the crown. There are not two clicks, there is only one click, and that's excellent because you pull out the crown to the first and final click. That hacks the movement. If you look at the contrasting red tip to the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. Therefore, it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the caliber SW200-1B. So we're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. One can feel the meshing of the gearing is precise. Quality control builds quality, tolerances and machining are excellent. Feels very smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. There's no difference. There's an almost immediate response. When you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, the syringe tip to the minute hand almost immediately responds. You don't have to take up a lot of slack or backplay in the gearing. As I've detailed in my previous reviews, there is a mechanical reason for some backplay in the meshing of the gearing, because if the meshing of the gearing did not have some backplay, when you push back in the crown, when the winding stem enters the movement, it would cause the syringe minute hand to jump out of position. Therefore, one does need some backplay, but it's minimal. When you push back in the crown, you can see that the syringe minute hand remains static. It doesn't jump out of position. So the refinement is there. The gear teeth are cut to a precision standard, but there is some slight play which is necessary. The contrasting red tip of the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again at the characteristic smooth 4Hz sweep. This is something I like about the Calabash SW200-1. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is a frequency of 4Hz, and therefore the 4Hz sweep is more aesthetically pleasing than the stutter or judder of a 3Hz sweep movement running at 21,600 vibrations per hour respectively. Nice smooth sweep, aesthetically pleasing. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Silky smooth. This is sublime screw down crown execution. To put this into perspective, the refinements, this is as smooth as a Rolex trip lock crown used on my Submariner dates. That's the level of smoothness, and the Rolex trip lock really is the industry standard. That is what other brands aspire to attain. It's silky smooth, 100 meters is strong specification with a hermetic seal, and the threads pick up, they mate perfectly. One doesn't have to rotate the crown anti-clockwise and clockwise repeatedly to get the threads to mate, to get them to pick up. The internal thread and the external thread instantly pick up. This is sublime. They could not improve upon this. It's stellar. Right, so let's look at the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, which is forged. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, I like forged case backs, which are hydraulically pressed. So to clarify, there are two different ways of engraving or embossing a case back. You can simply engrave the case back with 3D embossing, or alternatively, you can hydraulically press the case back with forging. Forged case backs are better. The reason why I prefer forged case backs versus engraved is because with a forged case back, you have this embossing. For example, we have Hanhart hergestellt in Deutschland, which means made in Germany in German. And the benefit is it's smooth. We have this 3D embossing of Hanhart and hergestellt in Deutschland, but the benefit is it's not sharp. It doesn't feel rough against the wrist. So therefore, comfort level and feel good factor are enhanced. When you wear this piece as a daily wear piece for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, the forged case back feels smooth against the wrist. It doesn't feel sharp and rough. So to clarify, for example, with the Steinhardt Ocean 139, which we'll all be familiar with, that has a very high definition detailed engraved case back with Sidon, the Greek god of the sea, and a seahorse. But although it's high definition and it looks aesthetically pleasing, the negative of the deep engraving on the Ocean 1 is it is sharp, and you can feel it feels rough against the wrist, and that diminishes the comfort level and the feel good factor of the Ocean 139 as a result. Visually the case back looks good, but it doesn't feel good. That's the point. Forged case backs, which are hydraulically pressed, are better because you can see it's deeply embossed with Hanhart and hergestellt in Deutschland, but smooth. Matte bead-blasted background to it is aesthetically pleasing, and the benefit is it's very low profile. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. This is not a deep bubble back case back. It's very low profile, and this is a pleasant surprise because this is an automatic. Now, if it had this flat case back and it was quartz powered, or if it was a mechanical manual wind movement piece, I would not say it's impressive, but this is an automatic powered by the SW200-1. Often pieces that are SW200-1 powered have very deep bubble back case backs in order to provide adequate clearance around the rotor to prevent the rotor fouling the underside of the stainless steel case back. This is very flat. And of course the benefit of this is, like the low dome of the double dome sapphire crystal, this piece is only 10.6. Other brands would not be able to do it. With the SW200-1, often one expects 12mm plus with 100 meters of hermetic seal. 10.6 with 100 meters and a double dome sapphire crystal, not a flat sapphire crystal, is incredible. Hanhart deserve full credit for this. To get an SW200-1 powered piece with 100 meters down to only 10.6 with a double dome sapphire crystal, not a flat sapphire crystal, is a fantastic achievement. 10.6 is the kind of thickness I would expect with a quartz powered or mechanical manual wind piece, not an automatic with a rotor. It's stellar. So, caseback is very well finished. Circumference is concentric CNC lathe tool machined, which has a nice satin finish. Milled slots are deburred and chamfered, no sharp edges, and the circumference is engraved with the specification and serial number and reference number of the piece. Fantastic finishing. To put this into perspective, this caseback is high tier level finishing. So, to remind you, mid tier level is €500 to €5,000. This is a mid tier piece at $1,295, but the caseback execution, the finishing, is high tier level. That is €5,000 plus level finishing. Underside to the head of the piece is mirror polished to a flawless standard. Nice large chamfers on the undercuts to the flanks, that deletes the sharp edge. Again, this enhances comfort level and feel good factor. Often with mid-tier brands, they have a sharp, crisp edge on the undercuts to the flanks. The problem with that is the sharp, crisp edge to the undercuts is sharp. It feels rough against the wrist and abrasive, and that diminishes the comfort level and the feel-good factor. Curvature of the undercuts to the flanks is fantastic for all wrist sizes. Also, the lug-to-lug is good at 46. It's compact, but the benefit is the large mirror polished chamfer deletes the sharp edge from the undercuts to the flanks on the left and the right hand flank. This really does enhance the comfort level. This is an incredibly comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Now, tips of the lugs have 4 large bevels that deletes the sharp corners to the tips of the lugs, and I'm pleased to see the correct decision. What we're looking at with this piece is correct decision after correct decision. Quick release stainless steel spring bars versus standard spring bars. This negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the oyster style bracelet for an alternative strap. And this is good because with mirror polished undersides to the head of the piece, for example, the lugs are mirror polished, sometimes it's difficult to engage a spring bar tool with standard spring bars without slipping off and scuffing and scratching the mirror polishing to the underside of the lugs. But by having quick release spring bars, one doesn't need a spring bar tool to exchange the oyster style bracelet for a strap, and that's the benefit. You're not going to accidentally scuff and scratch the mirror polishing, which is done to a very high standard. Correct decision after correct decision. Finishing is fantastic. Right, so let's look at the clasp in detail. As I've detailed, the HD12 is available in 2 versions, black and blue. So I'll switch over to the black version and we'll look at the clasp. The original version of the HD12 had a pressed body to the clasp, and it was light gauge. It was disappointing, and as I've detailed, it only had 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks, and the way it worked was you would depress the spring bar engaged in one of the 3 holes in the flanks externally using a spring bar tool or a push pin. And it was a light gauge, and it didn't really match the price point of the piece. It didn't say made in Germany. It did not say mid-tier piece, €1,295. The clasp was the only negative. It did have an extension link, rather like a Rolex EasyLink style extension, providing 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment, which was solid and milled versus press, so that was good. But it really needed to be updated. And I'm pleased to see that Hanhart have updated it. This is the new micro adjustment clasp. Now, it's signed with Hanhart, as you can see, with high definition engraving, and again in the original font, the vintage font versus the contemporary font. I like the 2 horizontal lines, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. The luster of the HD12 steel, which is hardened to 1200 HV, is fantastic. Nice fine grain satin finishing, absolute delight. Satin finish throughout. Even the bevels are not mirror polished. They are satin finished to a brushed satin finish. Beautiful luster to the body, the bevel and the flanks. 2 button push triggers are correctly proportioned. No sharp edges, no burrs, and heavily sprung loaded. So feel reliable and robust. Opens freely. Solid mill 316L grade stainless steel internals, and you can see it's also HD12, so hardened to 1200 HV. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks. Centre section doesn't have sharp corners, been deburred and chamfered very well. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. That's the benefit. Doesn't have play. Excellent. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side or up and down play. The interference friction fit of the pin is correct. Let's check the centre hinge pin. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. That's the benefit. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play. Finally, let's check the right hand hinge pin, which is a spring bar. Articulates freely, doesn't have excess play. Excellent. This is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get build quality, quality control, materials and finishing correct. Interference friction fit on the left hand, centre and right hand hinge pins. This is correct. Quality control is high. There is only one negative, and I'm going to be critical of it. Stainless steel is engraved with high definition engraving, but it's inverted. It's upside down. I'll clarify why I say it's upside down, why I say it's inverted. The majority of collectors wear their pieces on their left wrist. This way up. This is the orientation. They take the piece off the wrist and they rotate it round like so. And this is why the 2 button push buttons are on the left hand side versus the right, because you open the clasp with your right hand after taking off your left wrist from left to right. So you press the 2 triggers with your right index finger and thumb like so, and you open it always from left to right. So it's handed. Now, this is now the correct orientation, but you can see stainless steel is inverted. It's upside down. So just to walk you through it again, one wears it on the left wrist this way up, takes it off the wrist, turns it round this way, and always the clasp opens from left to right, hence the pushes being on the left-hand side versus the right, like so. This is the correct orientation. And as you can see, stainless steel is now inverted. They simply need to reverse this. They need to engrave stainless steel the other way up. That would correct it. And it's an embarrassing fundamental mistake, but many microbrands make it, and I always draw attention to it because these are the basics they need to get correct. They simply need to invert the engraving. Simple as that. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, and it's on its maximum extension on the micro adjustment clasp, which I will test. And I'm pleased to report I can easily slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. It's still loose. This indicates this bracelet is very long. It will fit up to a maximum 9-inch wrist size, which is very long. To clarify, there are enough removable links on the oyster style bracelet to size it down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 9-inch wrist size on the maximum 10mm adjustment on the micro adjustment clasp. So, enough removable links on the 6 side and enough removable links on the 12 for a minimum 6 up to a maximum 9-inch wrist size. Plenty of adjustment. So, no concerns whatsoever if you have a larger 8-inch plus wrist size. This piece visually looks fantastic. Perfection personified 20 to 16 taper, and again, correct decision after correct decision because we have female pouted end links. Had they used male end links, and again, often many microbrands in the mid-tier make this mistake, and many brands in the mid-tier make the mistake, they use male end links. And they really don't get the benefit of a compact lug-to-lug as a result, because this does have a compact lug-to-lug of 46. So to clarify, the sweet spot, the perfect 48mm lug-to-lug fits all wrist sizes. I often refer to 48 as the sweet spot, because if you have a 6 to 7 or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, 48 is the sweet spot. This is well below it at 46, but I'm not going to be critical of it because collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches will particularly appreciate the compact lug-to-lug of 46, which is 2mm below the sweet spot 48. Benefit is, you can see there's a minimal gap beneath the tips of the curved lugs. So this wraps around the wrist very well. It's a snug fit. It benefits the flat case back, as I've detailed. It's very thin and low profile for an automatic, and the low dome of the double dome sapphire crystal is beneficial because it's a very low profile and flat piece despite using a double dome sapphire crystal versus flat. 10.6 is very low profile. You'll know from my previous reviews, anything below 13mm is the sweet spot to fit underneath a business shirt if you wear business shirts, and you can see at 10.6, needless to say, it's well below the 13. Practical daily wear piece as a result. Easily fits underneath the shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. 20 to 16 looks good, feels good. Bracelet is perfectly balanced. 20 to 16 is perfection personified for a 39mm head of the piece. The clasp is also correctly proportioned. It's not too long or too bulky for a shorter 6 to 7 inch wrist. It's also not too thick. It doesn't project too proud from the wrist. Curvature is good. Undercuts have been deburred and chamfered, so no sharp edge. Doesn't feel rough, doesn't scratch the wrist. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge. 4 corners have been deburred. So this is a good curvature, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. The proportions are fantastic. Again, this is the benefit of using a taper down to 16, because at the end of the bracelet it's 16. This means the clasp isn't too wide and bulky. If it were 18mm, it would add too much width to it. It would become bulky for a 39mm head of the piece. Feel good factor is fantastic. Comfort level is fantastic. The thing I like about this piece is the lack of heft. It's 156 grams. Now, bear in mind, that is with a very long bracelet to fit up to a 9-inch wrist. So needless to say, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 4 to 6 links. If you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 4 links. That will reduce the heft to circa 140 to 150 grams. You'll know from my previous reviews, for a 39mm on an oyster style bracelet, anything below 150 grams is the sweet spot. Gives a nice feeling of weight and heft. It feels quality and solid, but doesn't dominate the wrist, doesn't feel top heavy and uncomfortable. 150 and below is the sweet spot for a 39 on an oyster style bracelet with a micro adjustment clasp with a ratcheting mechanism. So at 156, it's marginally above that by 6 grams, but of course you're going to be removing 4 to 6 links plus. It will reduce it to 140 to 150 grams. Very well balanced. What I like about it is visually it looks fantastic because it's so low profile at 10.6. Curvature of the lugs is fantastic because nice minimal gap beneath the tips of the lugs. The female pouted end links allow the end link in the oyster style bracelet to articulate better than male end links. It's the correct decision. Minimal gap beneath the end link in the bracelet. Taper is fantastic. Bracelet curvature, clasp is fantastic. Everything about it. The luster of the HD12 stainless steel is beautiful. Nice fine grained satin finish. And one thing I like about it is the bezel is satin finished. The tops of the lug is satin finished. The flanks is satin finished. Bracelet, body and flanks entirely satin finished. No mirror polishing to this piece whatsoever. Clasp, the body is satin. Flanks are satin, even the bevels are not mirror polished. This gives the piece a tool watch aesthetic rather than a dress piece aesthetic with mirror polishing. And it looks like a field watch or a military issued piece as a result. And I really like that aspect, the satin finishing throughout. No mirror polishing to any facet of this piece. Head of the piece, bracelets and clasp are fully brushed satin finished. The HD12 has an incredibly beautiful luster to it. So as you can see, it's just a fantastic looking piece. Now I'm going to give you a wrist shot of the blue version, but before I do that, I want to examine the new micro adjustment clasp because this is a notable enhancement as I've detailed. So let's look at it internally. So inside we have a ratcheting mechanism, and you can see there's a spring-loaded trigger which you depress, and it has push engraved to clarify that's where you push with your index finger or thumb. So I'm going to fully deploy it first by pressing it in with my thumb. So we've got 10mm of micro adjustment, as you can see. So solid milled internals, as you can see. Beautiful luster to the satin finishing. Pushes back in with a nice positive click. Full 10mm of extension with 5 heavy ratcheting clicks. Nice, loud, audible clicks. I like the feeling of it. It feels heavily sprung loaded. So you've got to really give it a good push with your thumb. Clicks in with good, solid clicks. 5 heavy clicks, and you can depress the trigger or the button with your index finger or thumb. I'm going to do it with my thumb, and it deploys smoothly. Feels good, sounds good, and I really like the execution of it. The way it feels when you operate it, it feels solid and robust. This is heavily sprung loaded. I've got no reservations whatsoever about the long-term durability with daily wear and tear. Nice, heavy, loud, audible clicks. 5 clicks, 10mm of adjustment. This is what this piece needed. And I'm very pleased to see Hanhart refine their pieces. Other mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands between €500 and €5,000 do not refine their pieces. They do not produce a V2 version. They do not update the clasps to enhance them. The original HD12 clasp was a disappointment. It was pressed stainless steel, 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks, and it had an extension link, rather like a diver's extension link. It was okay quality, but it did not say mid-tier €1,295 made in Germany. This micro adjustment clasp does say €1,295. This says to me mid-tier, this says made in Germany. This is the quality I've been looking for. So, pressing it back in, deploys it, and it clicks in with 5 heavy ratcheting clicks. I like the heavy spring-loaded action. Now, the benefit of the trigger, or the button being heavily spring-loaded, is you're not going to accidentally deploy it. For example, when your wrist presses against the button or the trigger, you're not going to accidentally, with wrist pressure, press in the trigger and deploy it 10mm when on wrist. That's the benefit of it being heavily sprung loaded. And it feels solid, it feels reliable and robust. I really like the execution. Now, when it's fully deployed, it doesn't rattle. We don't have excess play. So the dimensions are correct. The 16mm end link in the oyster style bracelet is a tight interference fit inside the body. It's not sloppy. That's good. When it's on its minimum, again, bracelet does not rattle. Sometimes with micro adjustment clasp with a ratcheting mechanism, there's slack, there's play. For example, the end link won't be the correct dimensions, a full 16mm inside the body. The internals of the clasp won't be accurately 16. And of course, then you'll have excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play. It will rattle, it will be sloppy. This feels nice and tight. Tolerances are good, quality control is good, feels reliable, clicks in with nice heavy clicks. Fantastic. I really like it. This is an excellent micro adjustment clasp, and this really perfects this piece. This was one shortcoming, but they've addressed it. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot of the blue version for comparison, because I want you to see how the black version compares to the blue version. Now, of the two, the blue is my favourite. It's a very deep navy blue, and I like the matte finish. Rather than being glossy enamel finish or sunburst finish, they've made the correct decision by making it matte. It's a very deep blue. In low light conditions, it looks black, and in direct light, it changes to a dark navy blue. It's absolutely gorgeous. Of the two, I prefer the blue version, but this is subjective. Some collectors will appreciate the matte black dial. It's just fantastic. This is a great looking piece from every angle. I really like the low dome of the double dome sapphire crystal, and to remind you, what we're looking at here is correct decision after correct decision, because had they used a box top hat crystal with a double dome, that would have added 2mm of thickness. This would not be 10.6, it would be 12.6. That would diminish the comfort level and the feel good factor. 12.6 still would be low profile for an automatic, but 10.6 with a very low dome, it almost looks flat. But it projects slightly above the satin finish bezel, and we've got a bevel on the edge of the double dome sapphire crystal which catches the light. And these are the kind of refinements I really like to look at. The sapphire crystal with that bevel on the edge, and the low profile to the HD12 stainless steel bezel with the beautiful brushed satin finishing to it. It's just fantastic. The feel good factor and the comfort level of this piece is sublime. Curvature of the undercuts to the flanks is fantastic, even though it's 2mm below the sweet spot, 48. Perfection personified taper. And of course, bracelet curvature, as I've detailed, is fantastic. Proportions of this piece are fantastic. Comfort level, feel good factor, and aesthetically, the blue dial just looks fantastic. I love the look of it. This is an incredible piece. What we're looking at is peak Hanhart. This is one of the greatest Hanhart pieces ever made. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this uses C1 Super Lume Nova on the dial and also on the Cathedral hour hand and the syringe minute hand. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. However, I think there's room for improvement. This is the one negative, or I would say one shortcoming of this HD12, both the black and the blue version. The Cathedral hands clearly have 5 to 6 layers of C1 Super Lume Nova. You can see the potency of the exciter on the Cathedral hour hand and the syringe minute hand. They've also lumed the second hand, which is good because one can see it in the dark. But you can see the negative. The one shortcoming, the one negative of this piece I want you to be mindful of, we clearly do not have the same 5 to 6 layers of C1 Super Lume Nova on the 12-hour printed Arabic numerals. So, to clarify, when I add the torch to it, you can see the large 12 Arabic numerals are fully lumed with C1 Super Lume Nova, as one would expect. And in daylight, there's a perfect colour tone match because they look white. They don't look more cream on the dial, and the handset doesn't look more white or cream. They both look white. They both look exactly the same. So good colour tone match of the C1 in daylight. They both look white versus cream. But however, I'm just going to charge it again, and you can see the problem. It looks like on the dial we have 2 to 3 layers or a maximum of 3 to 4 layers of C1 Super Lume Nova on the printed 12-hour Arabic numerals. Cathedral hands clearly have more performance because you can see the difference. Potency of the exciter initially doesn't look as bright on the dial. The Arabic numerals are not glowing as brightly. The exciter isn't as potent, and this tells me that it's 2 to 3 or a maximum of 3 to 4. Cathedral hands, yes, 5 to 6 layers, which is the industry standard, as you can see, stellar performance as one would expect. This is disappointing for a mid-tier piece, and I regard it as a production cost-cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece, and it's often something that mid-tier microbands and mid-tier brands will do between €500 and €5,000. They use 2 to 3 layers on the hands or the dial, or 3 to 4 layers on the hands or the dial versus the industry standard 5 to 6, because it reduces production cost per piece and therefore maximises profit margin per piece. But it's a cost-cutting measure too far. One could be magnanimous about it below 100, in the low tier between €0 and €500. But this is a mid-tier piece costing €1,295. One cannot be magnanimous. These kind of production cost-cutting measures are not acceptable in the mid-tier. This does not say to me made in Germany. It does not say to me mid-tier piece at €1,295. It says to me low-tier piece, €0 to €500. That's the kind of production cost-cutting measure one expects. And it's a real shame because had they applied 5 to 6 layers on the Arabic numerals, you can see the performance would be fantastic if it was stellar performance like the handset. It just isn't good enough. 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 is not acceptable at €1,295. It has to be 5 to 6. That is the industry standard. It's mandatory for mid-tier pieces. And we're not looking at a Chinese low-tier piece here. This is made in Germany, in the Black Forest. So Hanhart really need to apply 5 to 6 on the printed indices. As you can see, the camera is struggling to autofocus on the Arabic numerals because the exciter lacks potency at 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. It does have potency to the exciter on the Cathedral hour hand and the syringe minute hand, so that's okay. Green colour tone match is good, but really, on the Arabic numerals, it's just not good enough. That is the one remaining negative. So I'm pleased they've upgraded the clasp to the micro adjustment clasp. That's good. They just need to upgrade the printing on the dial. I'm just going to check the black version just for comparison to see is there any difference. Because I want to confirm, when I level criticism at a brand, I like to be fair rather than unfair. I like to be unbiased. So I want to give it a fair chance, the HD12, both the black and the blue versions. I want to test both. Because when I level criticism at Hanhart, I want to be honest about it. I want to be fair rather than biased. Right, so that's now fully charged. Now, initially, the exciter looks potent on the Arabic numerals, as you can see. This one actually looks to be performing better for some reason. So what this tells me is, for some reason, the black version dial seems to have more application, more layers of BGW9. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to charge them both side by side. And then we can just see what the difference is. Because what it's telling me at the moment is the black dial version seems to have more potency to the exciter of the Arabic numerals. The blue dial version lacks it. So it looks to me like, for example, the black dial version has 3 to 4 layers versus the blue dial version only has 2 to 3. And I want to know this. I want to clarify, is the black dial version performing better than the blue? Because, of course, if you're considering both, you're going to need to know that. So just bear with me. I'm going to charge both equally. And then we'll look at the potency of the exciter on the black and potency of the exciter on the blue, respectively. And then we'll see which is the best. I think we're looking at more layers on the Arabic numerals on the black. Right, so that's now fully charged. You can clearly see there is a notable difference. Black dial version on the left, blue dial version on the right. Potency of the exciter of the Cathedral handset is equal. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to autofocus. But you can see there's a notable difference. Black dial version on the left clearly has more layers. Right dial version is fading quicker on the Arabic numerals. So this is strange, it's a curiosity, because one would expect both the black and the blue dial versions to have the same number of layers. 5 to 6 on both dials, 5 to 6 on both handsets. Looks to me like there's a difference in production method, because I think what we're looking at is 3 to 4 layers on the black dial version and 2 to 3 layers on the blue dial version. Hanhart really needs to address this, because it's wholly unacceptable. Regardless of whether it's the black or the blue dial version, they should have 5 to 6 on both. So just bear with me. I'm going to charge both fully to the absolute limit, and then we'll look at them side by side again, and we'll get the camera to autofocus, because I really want to check the potency of both. Right, so that's now both fully charged. We'll get the camera to autofocus. Now you can clearly see there is a difference. Black on the left, blue on the right. The handsets look exactly the same on the black and the blue version. The Cathedral hand and the Syringe Minute hand have the same potency, but there's definitely a difference between the Arabic numerals. Black version on the left looks like 3 to 4 layers. Blue version on the right looks like 2 to 3. It's fading quickly to nothing, so it's disappointing. There's still room for improvement with both. That's what it comes down to. You can see on the left, handset looks okay. Handset looks okay on the other one. On the left, the black version is now fading as well. Disappointing. One cost-cutting measure too far. And it's the one negative they need to address. The strange thing is, in daylight, when you look at both pieces side by side, you can see they both have the same white tone. So it looks like in daylight they've applied the same number of layers to both the black version and the blue version in terms of the Arabic numerals, the printing. It looks like 5 to 6 in daylight. They both look white. The hands look exactly the same as well. It doesn't look like they've applied more layers on one or the other, but when we do the Lume test, one can clearly see that we're looking at 3 to 4 layers on the Arabic numerals with the black, and I would say 2 to 3 layers maximum on the blue version. Disappointing, because in daylight they both look fantastic. Quality of the printing is high definition and crisp. The Arabic numerals are clearly legible, and it looks good. Just needs to have 5 to 6 layers of C1 applied on the printed Arabic numerals. So I'm hoping Hanhart will address this after watching this review and improve it. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So as I've detailed, both the black and the blue versions are powered by the Sellita Calibre SW200-1. And as I've detailed, the SW200-1 is produced by Sellita in 2 versions, 1A and 1B. So to remind you, the 1A is the date version, the 1B is the no date version. This uses the 1B, and the benefit of that is it does not have a date complication, and therefore it deletes the phantom date setting position. There's only one click on the crown. So they deserve credit, they've selected the correct choice of the 1B versus the 1A. The SW200-1 has been in service since 2008, so it's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss calibre, and at this stage in 2025 its reliability is well proven beyond question. So to clarify its circulation, in 2024 Sellita produced an incredible volume of SW200-1s. They produced 800,000 SW200-1s in 2024 alone. It's been in service since 2008, and last year they produced 800,000, so therefore the reliability is proven beyond question. Above all else, that's what I like about it. It's reliable, it's well proven, it's a good, solid workhorse Swiss calibre. Has 26 joules. It's a clone of the ETA 2824-2. The architecture of both calibers is the same. The only difference is the SW200-1 has an additional joule added, therefore it has 26 joules versus the 25 joules of the ETA 2824-2. But other than that, the architecture is identical. It is a clone of it. 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Hand winding and hacking works well, as I've demonstrated. The stated accuracy of the standard grade SW200-1B is plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30 seconds per day. So rather wide accuracy range, plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30. However, Hanhart are doing a good job of regulating the SW200-1s they're using. They're regulating the movements in 5 positions to chronometer accuracy. This one is running consistently at plus 3 seconds per day when it's fully wound to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. Now, plus 3 is certainly well within the stated accuracy of the standard grade of plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30. Plus 3 is actually chronometer grade accurate. So, to clarify, chronometer grade is minus 4 to plus 6, and plus 3 is actually within chronometer limits of minus 4 to plus 6. 5 positions is excellent regulation, plus 3 is excellent. No negatives to the SW200-1B whatsoever. What I like about the 1B versus the 1A is it doesn't have a date complication. We do not have a phantom date setting position, just one click on the crown. Excellent choice. Correct choice of movements at this price point in the mid-tier. At €1,295, the SW200-1 is the right choice. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, this is excellent quality, and yes, it is excellent value at €1,295. The specification is absolutely loaded. AR coating, double dome sapphire crystal is excellent. This piece is entirely made from hardened stainless steel, HD12, with a hardness rating of 1200 HV. So to remind you, bezel, case, caseback, crown, bracelet and clasp are entirely HD12 stainless steel. This does increase production costs because HD12 stainless steel is more expensive than standard 316L grade stainless steel, but the benefit is this piece is more hard and scratch resistant, so you're not going to get scuffs and scratches as easily on the clasp and the bracelet as per standard 316L grade, which is 200 HV. SW200-1 is accurate, it's reliable, correct choice. Made in Germany piece with a Swiss made calibre, so that strong specification, 100 metres, screw down crown is silky smooth. There is only one negative now with this piece. It's the printing of the lume on the dial, as I showed you with the Lume Test, and particularly disappointing with this black dial version. Sorry, the black dial version is better, particularly disappointing with the blue dial version, which is weaker. So, nonetheless, Hanhart need to improve the quality of the C1 Superlume Nova on the printed Arabic numerals on the black and the blue version to 5 to 6 layers to match the 5 to 6 layers used on the Cathedral handset, because that is the one negative I want you to be mindful of. On a positive note, they have updated the clasp, which was previously the one main negative of the HD12, the original version, press body clasp, 3 micro adjustment holes and the diver's style extension link, which gave 10mm of on the fly adjustment. This ratcheting clasp is excellent quality. I really like it, correctly proportioned, ratcheting mechanism feels reliable and robust. It's a notable enhancement. So, excellent quality and excellent value, but one has to be mindful of the one negative, which is the lume. But I'm confident that Hanhart are going to address this after watching this video, and they will update it on the black and the blue dial versions to give it 5 to 6 layers of a potent exciter with the C1. So I'm going to recommend it to your consideration. I'm going to declare both pieces a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Hanhart Pioneer Preventor HD12, black and blue. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.